Good morning and welcome to the virtual Big Day In for Wangaratta as part of the Victorian Government Digital Innovation Festival for 2020. My name is Shorju Das Salmon, an intern at the ACS Foundation, and I will be your virtual Big Day In Wangaratta co-host for today. Later on today, we'll have an official welcome from Danielle Green, Parliamentary Secretary for Regional Victoria, Parliamentary Secretary for Sport, and State Member for Yan Ying. But first up, I wanted to tell you today about the many presenters we're going to have across the technology industry, working in IT in vastly different capacities. They're going to give you their insights into working in this booming sector and where the jobs of the future may take you. Today's presenters are Dr. Tim Kitchen from Adobe, Emma Jones from GHD Digital, Kerryn O'Brien from the Rural City of Wangaratta Council, Calvin Davidson from Microsoft, and Mike Gardiner from BuzzyGames. During each presentation, you have the opportunity to ask questions of any presenter, no matter how trivial you think the question is. Just hit the Ask a Question button on the bottom right, type something up, and we'll take care of the rest. Questions are moderated, but we'll ask the best ones of each presenter. If your question doesn't get answered during this live session, don't worry. We will work with the presenters to get every single question answered following the event and post the responses on our website at www.thebigdayin.com.au. Our first presenter for today is Dr. Tim Kitchen. Tim was a teacher for 23 years prior to taking up his position as Adobe's Senior Education Specialist for the Asia Pacific region. During his virtual presentation today, he'll be explaining to you why you shouldn't have to wait until you've finished school or university to establish what you love doing and how to turn that passion into a job. He will also go through some of the many skills considered important to thrive in IT, multimedia, and many other industries. So please join me in welcoming our first presenter for today, Dr. Tim Kitchen from Adobe, with Turn Your Passions into a Job.
Thank you, Georgiou. It is an honour to be with you at the Wangaratta Big Day In event, covering regional Victoria with a focus on the northeast. And I would like to say a very special hello to anyone who happens to be at Wodonga Catholic College, just on the off chance that you are there. It's a school I visit pretty regularly, and I do appreciate it. So I know your region well. I live in Melbourne, and I get to go up to your region pretty regularly because my sister actually works at that school. So special hello to Wodonga Catholic College. And let me also start by saying that I am right behind the push for the AFL Grand Final to be held at Wangaratta this year. Well, if it can't be at the G, let's move it to Wang. I would like to take this opportunity to also thank John Ridge and Kerry Bizzaro and the team from the Australian Computer Society Foundation for organising these sessions. And I'd also like to thank all the teachers who have organised getting their students involved in all of these events that have been happening around all the virtual events. Normally what you'd be doing is heading up to Wagga Wagga to come to this event, so it's nice that we can actually come to you. And just speaking of the grand final, the AFL are actually a very important partner of Adobe. And I'm thinking what might be a good idea to help you with that boost is if I could Photoshop the photos that I took at the grand final last year of all the crowd and then bring them into the Wangaratta sports field just to give the AFL a bit of a feel of what it would actually be like. I think that would just be awesome. So that'll be my pledge to you to have a go at doing that, maybe. Now, I've got a job for you. Let's just jump to this. Can you see a QR code on the screen? If you're going to grab your phone and hover your camera over that QR code, it will bring up a poll. It'll bring up a menti.com poll. If you can't do that for whatever reason, jump into a different browser and type in menti.com. In fact, maybe someone at the foundation could actually type in that link into the chat so that people can just maybe click on that link too to make it easier for you. Once you've got access to that link, either through the QR code or just typing it in, use the code 342397 and you will get access to the poll. Now, the poll has a range of different statements, and I want you to give me a strongly disagree to strongly agree type range based on these statements. And when we start getting the results, I'm going to bring them up on the screen so that you can see the results. Let's go through some of the statements while you're getting access. And just to remind you, the QR code's there, easy, just hover your camera over the QR code, that will magically bring up the poll for you. And then there's the code 34, 23, 90 and 7. Otherwise, go to a different browser, type in minty.com or go to the chat, it should be clicked there on the chat, and start filling out that poll for me because I want to see the results of that you can provide for me. So the first statement is strongly disagree, strongly agree. I know what I want to do for a job in the future. Strongly disagree, strongly agree. The results are starting to come in now, which is terrific. Once we've got about, I don't know, 15, 20 people who've put in, then I'm going to start displaying the results. And so we've got a couple of people in at the moment, so keep working on it. I'm not going to display the results until we get a few more responses there. The second part, living in a regional area will not be a major restriction on my future job opportunities. Love to get your opinion on that. Strongly disagree, strongly agree. Learning IT skills at school will help me with my future employment opportunities. Strongly disagree, strongly agree. All right, we've got about 12 people on now, so I'm going to start bringing the results in so you can see how that's panning out. So hopefully what you can see now is the results starting to appear on the screen. George, give me a thumbs up if that's working. You can see the results come. Thank you very much. The third statement here, learning IT skills, we've talked about that. The other one, I already earn money doing what I'm passionate about. Strongly disagree, strongly agree. I work well with a team. Strongly disagree, strongly agree. I think I'm creative. Strongly disagree, strongly agree. I have a passion for coding. I have a passion for design. So with 22 people so far that I can see that have done it, let's get a few more in, folks. So if you haven't done it yet, the poll's up the top. You can see minty.com and then the code's up at the top of the screen. So if you haven't got it, get access now. Let's have a look at the results. I know what I want to do for a job in the future. It seems that most of you do, and that's terrific. That's really terrific to see that you already have a bit of a focus where most of you are thinking you've got a goal in mind already where you want to go. Whereas there's quite a few people who are saying, no, I don't know, and that's perfectly normal. That's perfectly normal. In fact, I know a lot of people who don't even know what they want to do for a job in the future and they're already halfway through their careers. Living in a regional area will not be a major restriction on my future job opportunities. And it's really interesting to see that most of you are kind of in the middle there. I'm very pleased to see that most of you aren't out in this area here where you strongly disagree with that, although some of you do. And quite a lot of you agree with that statement, but most of you are in the middle. Living in a regional area will not be a major restriction. Well, folks, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but things have dramatically changed just this year with that statement, and we'll talk about why that's the case a little bit later. Learning IT skills at school will help me with future employment opportunities, and most of you are agreeing with that. Only one person is disagreeing or strongly disagreeing. In fact, disagreeing. Everyone tends to be agreeing with that statement. I already earn money doing what I'm passionate about, and I'm very pleased to see that some of you are already. We've got 8 of you who either agree or strongly agree with that statement, and 4 of you who are kind of halfway there. Most of you don't at this stage, which is perfectly normal, and that's something we'll talk about soon too. I work well with a team. Great to see that majority of you agree with that. I think I am creative. Well, that's interesting. We've got this strong mix here. We're probably the majority in the strongly agree side, but there's quite a few who definitely don't think they're creative at all. I have a passion for coding, and there's a good spread there. Wow, a very even spread. That's amazing. That's great to see. I have a passion for design, and there's a bit of a spread there too, with most people leaning towards the agree. All right, we might come back to that. If you haven't had a chance to fill that in yet, keep working on it, and we'll come back and look at those results a little bit later. With the release of Lady Gaga's 6th studio album, Chromatica, Adobe have been partnering with her to challenge digital artists to use their creativity and bring their own inner world of Chromatica to life. It's been an interesting exercise we've been going through with her. Digital artists were encouraged to use any of their favorite Adobe creative apps, such as Photoshop, Illustrator, Fresco, the new drawing app, which is free, by the way. It's available on iOS and on Windows tablets. Adobe Spark, which is also free, InDesign and more, to create representations of Chromatica with the hashtag Lady Gaga x Adobe. Now, this competition is finished now. It's something we did this year, but we didn't do it with Australian students. We did this with North American students, and it's been fascinating to see some of the results. And I'll explain why I'm telling you this in a minute. Have a look at some of the amazing work that came from these creative artists. And as you're looking at these examples here, I'll let you know what the prize was. Or is, we still haven't judged it yet properly. 10,000 American dollars cash for the winner. A high quality print of their artwork, autographed by Lady Gaga, and then a 12-month Adobe All Apps Creative Cloud subscription as well. Now that was an awesome prize, and it's been incredible to see how that's going and see the amazing artwork. Lady Gaga has worked very hard to have the success that she currently enjoys. When she was about your age, her name wasn't Lady Gaga. Can you imagine going to school? Hi, I'm Lady Gaga. Wouldn't have worked. Her name was Stephanie Joanne Angelita Germanata, I think, or something like that. And at your age, she sang at open mic nights, she acted in school plays, and she wanted to get as much experience as she possibly could, because she realized when she was your age that she had a passion for singing, she had a passion for acting. She described herself at high school as very dedicated, very studious, very disciplined, but also very insecure. She considered herself a bit of a misfit and was often teased and bullied. She had to work very hard to develop her talent and her passion, and she went through some very difficult and disturbing experiences as a young woman. She's a great example of a young person who's worked incredibly hard on her passion and turned that into a career. And she was earning money while she was still at school, while she was at university, while she was still developing her skills. She turned her passion into a job. Another artist we've been working with at Adobe is this one here. I don't know if you've heard of her. Have you heard of Billie Eilish? Sure you have. Billie Eilish is another example of someone who's turned her passion into a job, and at a very young age. Adobe have partnered with Billie on a few programs over the last couple of years. Most recently, she's been helping us promote the new Photoshop camera app. I don't know if you've come across that yet on iOS and Android. It's a brilliant little app that you can just take photos and then bring in Photoshop filters, and filters that have been created by Billie Eilish herself to redesign and rework your photos. That happen instantly as soon as you take the photo. It's a terrific little bit of creativity. She's created a whole set of filters for that, and she'll be adding more as we go. Billie and her brother Phineas have both discovered that they have a passion for songwriting and recording, and they discovered this passion at a very young age, and they both have become very successful at turning their passion into a job. One of the greatest pleasures that I have in my job is to visit schools and universities around Australia, around Southeast Asia, and into the USA as well, to meet students who are very creative at doing their schoolwork and are very creative at turning their passions into a job. They're photographers, they're video makers, they're coders, they're graphic designers. They're not waiting to finish school or to finish university to get a formal qualification before they go and get a job. They're setting up their small businesses, their startup companies, and doing school at the same time. They're turning their passion into a job. It's really exciting to see these examples, and I just love it when a 13, 14, 15-year-old tells me about the work that they're doing. And I'll talk a bit more about this later, but when I see resumes now, when we're employing people into our company, one of the things I always look for is, have you started a small business? Have you been involved in creating a small business? Because that looks so good on your resume to know you've been through that. Even if the business has failed, failure is how you learn. Failure is not a bad thing, folks. I know in our school system we discourage failure in a big way. I'm not so sure if that's a good thing or not. I'm pretty sure it's not, actually. Failure is how you learn, and I encourage you just to get out there and develop those skills. Adobe was involved in a study last year that looked at 2 million job advertisements and 2 million resumes across 18 diverse careers. We found that skills like collaboration, communication, and creativity are highly sought after by up to 70% of hiring managers, and only a small fraction of those applicants actually featured those skills in their resumes or in their interview conversations. Employers are looking for potential employees who don't necessarily spend a lot of time playing games, but are making games, who don't watch lots of YouTube, don't sit there and just watch television and YouTube and consume lots and lots of media all the time, but they have their own YouTube channel. They produce media and they're getting themselves out there. We're looking for people who work well with others, who are creative, and who don't give up when things get hard. And that's one thing that school does do very well. It does challenge you to be resilient in many occasions. But are keen problem solvers. That's what we're looking for in young people. Being in a major city is no longer an essential to have a great career. And I'm saying that now because COVID has totally changed things. Just in this short few months that we've experienced this terrible disaster that is COVID-19, the workforce has changed dramatically and most likely forever, and probably for the best. And if you think about it, if you've got an internet connection that is reasonable, now I know there are issues in regional Victoria and regional Australia with internet connections, but if you're able to hear and see me now, then you've got a reasonable connection to the internet, which means you have the ability to have a career thanks to the internet, no matter where you live. And that's so important. Just to give you an example, I work all over the world. My job is to actually literally go all over the world into schools and universities. But I haven't been able to do that this year, have I? No one can travel. So every engagement that I've done this year has been here in my study. Now my study, yes, it's in Melbourne and I've got a reasonable internet connection, but I could be doing this in Wangaratta. I could be doing this in Wodonga. I could be doing this in Albury. The reality is that if you've got the internet, you can connect with others and you have that ability. And it's not all just about going into a major city. And that's one of the great benefits, I suppose, out of the disaster that we've had called COVID-19. Let's have a look at some of the most in-demand soft skills of 2019, according to LinkedIn. And of course, if you're not familiar with LinkedIn, let me encourage you to start getting familiar with it, because if you want to get a job, you need to be on LinkedIn. It is pretty much the way that we go search for people for jobs. Time management, adaptability, collaboration, persuasion, and look at that number one, creativity, the number one skill, according to LinkedIn, that's required. Now, this is what we're looking for in young people as they're coming out of the education system. And my challenge to you and to the teachers who are watching this too is, every time you're given an assessment or you're doing an assessment or whatever you're doing at school, do you have the opportunity to develop those skills, to develop time management, adaptability, collaboration? How often is your assessments a team-based assessment? And if it's not, if you're finding you're not getting the opportunity to work in a team, ask why not. Please go to your teacher and say, is it possible I can do this with a group? because that is how you're going to develop those skills. Use your skill of persuasion, develop your skills of persuasion to try and encourage you to develop these skills. And of course, creativity is just fundamental here. The Innovation Science Australia organisation, they put out a report a few years ago called Australia 2030, Prosperity Through Innovation. And they say that an Australian student leaving school today is likely to have 5 careers and 17 different jobs over their working life. So don't think that you're now preparing yourself for one job and one career. That's what life was like when I was your age. The system was in place to prepare me for a particular career that I would be doing for the rest of my life. It didn't work out in my case. I've done a couple of different things, but in your case, you'll be doing many different things, and that's just the way it will be. So to develop skills and creativity is so fundamental because you never know what you'll end up doing. Millennials have struggled with this. You guys are Gen Z. Millennials are the group that I taught. Most of the students that I taught fall into this age range here. Yes, I'm that old. I'm in this range here. I'm Gen X, so I'm beyond it. But it's interesting studying where millennials have been, where the failures have been in the previous generation, the generation above you. Many millennials are struggling to keep their jobs, which is probably why we're predicting that you will have many different jobs. It might change. Top reasons for millennials getting fired a lot: lack of vision, miscommunication, lack of confidence. This guy, Trevor Muir, is a teacher, author, speaker, someone that I highly respect. He's been doing some research on this. He believes that, summing up the main reasons, millennials find it hard to work in teams, probably because they weren't encouraged to when they were at school. They lack confidence in themselves and their decisions. They suffer from anxiety. They struggle presenting and communicating. They find critical thinking difficult. Again, things that we didn't really encourage in the school system at that time. And I know that because I was a teacher at that time. Students, skills many millennials lack: collaboration, complex problem solving, creativity, confidence, communication, critical thinking. The skills that we are looking for are lacking in millennials. These are so-called soft skills. I mean, Trevor would argue that they really should be called vital skills because that's what we're looking for. In LinkedIn's 2019 Global Talents Trend Report, they showed that 92% of talent professionals and hiring managers, the people that are going to give you the jobs of the future, say that soft skills are just as important or more important than hard skills. And at schools, we're very good at teaching the hard skills, and often they're changing. The reality is that the hard skills are things that can be taught pretty easily. In fact, when you get into a job, that's when you'll start really learning the proper skills you need. It's the soft skills that are hard to teach once you're in the job. And if you can display that you've got those soft skills, you're going to be so much more employable. So please work on those soft skills now while you're still at school. Year after year, the word creative is the single most searched term in LinkedIn. Now think about that. When we as employers are looking for employees, we will go to LinkedIn, we'll type in the word creative more than any other word to see what comes out. And when we're looking at resumes, when we're looking at your profiles, we want to see examples of creativity. So how can you stand out from the crowd and show off your skills and your passions? Out of 2 million job ads and 2 million resumes that we studied, skills like collaboration, communication, and creativity are highly sought after, but only a small fraction of applicants featured these skills in their resumes. And remember, I mentioned that earlier. Just want to emphasize, when you're sharing and you're creating your resumes, show off your creativity side and brand yourself in a creative way. Many of you have the opportunity to use our software to do exactly that. Our software at Adobe is the software that's used at the highest level of creativity. We are the world leader when it comes to digital creativity software. In fact, if you think about it, at the highest level, Marvel Studios use our software to make their films that we all enjoy. And yet I see some of these products here, Premiere Pro, After Effects, and Photoshop, being used in primary schools, which is awesome. just to see how you can develop these skills to brand yourself. This is a young lady I had the opportunity to work with this year when I was able to go and do face-to-face engagements, and she set up her own business to do make cupcakes, and she promotes it on Instagram. She uses Adobe Premiere Pro to create little videos of her making the cupcakes to help promote her small business. She turned her passion into a job, and she's only in year 9. If you're new to Adobe, have a look at the Spark tool. Spark Post is as a digital desktop publishing tool on your browser. It's free. It's on iOS, it's on Android. Have a look at Spark Page to create a web page, to promote yourself, to brand yourself. It's free. And it's available on iOS and on browser. And have a look at Spark Video to create some really cool videos to brand yourself. It's a very limited video tool, but it does the basics. Premiere Rush is a much better one. Premiere Pro is the ultimate one, obviously, to learn with. We've got applications for image manipulation, applications for print and for presentations, applications for video and sound production. Learn these tools, use them while you're at school. Every assessment, say, can I use an Adobe tool to develop my skills? We have tools for AR, for augmented reality, virtual reality, 3D creation, for online and mobile app design and development and prototyping. Awesome apps that you can use while you're still at school to develop your skills. If you need any help with any of our tools, go to helpx.adobe.com. It's a one-stop shop to get any support, any help, from basic guides to full-on masterclasses. And our YouTube channel is incredibly helpful too. If you go to the Creative Cloud YouTube channel, there's some great sources there to get support. Teachers out there, we now have 870,000 teachers on the Adobe Education Exchange, just helping you learn how to integrate our tools into all areas of the curriculum. So folks, my message to you is work out what your passion is, turn it into a job, and don't wait until you finish school. Let's have a quick look at our results again now that we've had 60 people do the poll. The results are still pretty similar. Very pleased to see that you realise that you can be doing some great work while you're still in regional Victoria. Most of you are sort of in the middle there, and it's awesome to see that that you're acknowledging that. And IT skills are very important, and it doesn't have to be coding. If you want to be in the IT industry, we're looking for all sorts of people. You don't have to have skills in coding to be in the IT industry. Design is probably just as important in some respects, but if you can develop skills in coding and design, even better for you. Folks, turn your passion into a job and keep being creative. And it's been a pleasure to present to you this morning. All the very best.
Perfect, Tim. We've got time just for 2 questions, so we might want to just quickly go to those. Firstly, do you use any of the Adobe Creative Cloud products, and what do you use them for?
Yeah, I use just about all of them, actually. Premiere Pro is my favorite, and I can't create a video without image manipulation, so I'd say Photoshop, Premiere Pro, and Adobe Audition I'm using a lot now for podcasting as well. So that'd be my 3 most used applications.
And just quickly, we'll go for one more. Did you ever get the chance to meet Billie Eilish or Lady Gaga at any of the Adobe events?
Yeah, well, Billie Eilish, she came to our big conference last year, our Adobe Max conference, which was in Los Angeles. And by the way, the Adobe Max conference this year is a virtual event that anyone can attend. And this year we've got Keanu Reeves coming as our main keynote speaker. And anyone, you guys can attend that too. If you go to adobemax.com, I think is the website to check that out.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Tim. Thanks for sharing all your insights and your experiences about IT careers and what the skills are required to actually thrive in the future. Also, thanks to all the questions that we received. It's great to see everyone engaged in Tim's presentation. And I know that Tim couldn't get to all of them, but he will make some time to answer whatever he couldn't and put his responses on www.thebigdayin.com.au. I'd now like to introduce Danielle Green, Parliamentary Secretary for Regional Victoria, Parliamentary Secretary for Sport, and State Member for Yan Yean, to officially open the virtual Big Day In for Wangaratta 2020.
Thank you so much, Georgiou, and thank you, Tim Kitchen. Look, I'm so excited. I want to go and work for Adobe when I grow up. And and I think if you're as old as me, that probably means, you know, it's an indication you've got to be prepared to be flexible. And I'm sure that young people now understand that more than I did when I was your age. I want to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which you're meeting today. And in Wangaratta, that would be the Pangarang people. Shepparton surrounds, it's the Yorta Yorta people. And then if you're further out towards Mount Buffalo or to the south, even down as far as Broadford, that would be the Tungnarung people. And I want to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And Shorju, I am the member for Yan Yean, and in traditional Aboriginal language in the outer Melbourne area, that means young boy. And the geographic centre of the Yan Yean electorate is a place called Mernda, and that means young girl. So in the 18 years that I've been in the parliament, that makes me, you know, draw on that long reservoir of wisdom from those traditional people to always remember that my job is to think about the Yan Yeans and the Merndas of today and the Yan Yeans and the Merndas of the future. And what an exciting program that you've got with the Australian Computer Society today for the virtual Big Day In at Wangaratta. And I'm really cheesed off I'm not there. We've been in lockdown. Haven't been out of Melbourne since March. And normally this time of year I'd be passing through Wangaratta on my way to the ski slopes sort of every second weekend. And I'm not able to do that at the moment. So I'm insanely jealous of all of you that are there, but also the program that you've got there. And my notes say that STEM skills are important, but a lot of my local schools actually talk about STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts and maths. And I think I was trained in the arts. I did a degree in arts. And people used to say, you know, oh, what are you going to do with that? You know, it's a general thing. And I think just to say what John said in terms of those soft skills, when I was at school, the nuns said to me, Danielle Green, you talk too much, you've got too many friends and you're a sticky beak. So I had actually come with those soft skills, but unlike all of you, I didn't have tech knowledge because the only piece of technology that I recall when I was at school that we had was typewriters, and it wasn't much different when I went into the workplace. But so that's why when I'm hiring, I'm dying to have people like you to work for me. Two of my youngest staff they're both 19, I think, and they're both at university, but they bring such depth to my team, and particularly in this work environment where we've all been working virtually, and me and the two older members of my team, we've really struggled with tech. But having those young, fresh people there that understand tech and been able to advise us so much, and it's been a really, really crucial part of our team. One of the things of coming out of recovery of COVID, I think that we're now all understanding, and as someone that grew up in Warrnambool and Mildura, you know, it was like, where's the big wide world? Where's the city? You know, will it be for me? Will I be able to get a job there? Will I be able to afford to go there? A lot of those things are just completely being blown away now. And I really liked what Dr. Tim Kitchen said in about being creative. And I think having a creative resume and looking a bit quirky and different, lobbing that on the desk of an employer, they're not going to look at the fact you live in Wangaratta or Myrtleford or Tarrawinji. They're going to go, wow, this person's really creative, and it really won't matter where you live anymore. And in fact, a lot of the millennials, you know, the phones have been running hot because people want to get out of big cities now because they're actually afraid. So I think one of the, and millennials are moving back, and they're going to need the tech skills of you guys to help them better run their businesses, or maybe you'll be hiring them. So I think COVID's been a real game changer, and I loved what Tim Kitchen said about, you know, get that confidence. And I actually think with every country kid I meet, they're usually a lot more resilient than a lot of city kids, and they've had broader experiences. Actually more used to working in teams, I think, because when you've got scarcity of things, you've actually got to call on your own resources a bit more than what city kids. So don't actually feel that you're behind the eight ball. I mean, look at the most famous son from Wangaratta in Victoria. How good's he gone? You know, facing the media every day in our Premier, Daniel Andrews, doing the most difficult job. And he was born and bred in Wangaratta, and that's where he got his strong skills from. So he leads a government that's really passionate about supporting young people in STEM, and we've been really pleased to sponsor this conference for the second year in a row. And it's a bit different, but, you know, let's make it the best that it can be, and all the very best. And I look forward to some of your resumes lobbing on my desk, because the world really is open to you now, and particularly people in government are going to need your bright ideas, especially from the science side, you know, getting to the bottom of what causes a pandemic, or how we manage, you know, in an IT sense, the whole thing of being able to track down COVID cases really quickly, or how to manage a database of where you get the best PPE, you know, the protective equipment for health workers, or how we make it easier for doctors to find the information that they need to cure someone. So I think there's never been a better time. The great diversity of careers that involve tech, but will require those team skills and problem solving skills that I'm sure all of you have in spades. So thank you so much, Georgiou, and thank you to the sponsors. And I think the world is your oyster, everyone. Just go out there and get it. And if you don't mind, I might sit in and listen in a little bit more, because it really is exciting. And as I started out, I think when I grow up, I might go and work for Adobe or someone similar, or at least I'm going to go and do a course and upskill myself.
Thank you, Danielle, for your wise words of wisdom. As to today's second presenter is Emma Jones. Emma will share stories and learnings from her eclectic career, from jazz musician to coder to her current role as innovation consultant with GHD Digital. Expect to hear about animating helicopters, working for top design agencies in London, teaching, growing startup communities, working in human-centered design, world record attempts, and the perks and myths of working globally, all while living in Wangaratta. Without further ado, please welcome Emma Jones from GHD Digital, presenting all the job titles I've had that I never knew existed.
Thank you so much, Georgiou. Hi, everybody. I'm just checking. Sorry, I'm getting these little notifications that I'm getting bad network. Look, I'm going to leave plenty of time for questions, because just listening to Tim and listening to Danielle, I feel like what they're talking about, I've lived it, and I've been a bit of an example. So I'm going to talk to some of the things that they've mentioned and explain how it's happened for me, and hopefully get a lot of questions from you. So please ask me anything, because I think that combination of having curiosity and the courage to ask has opened plenty of doors for me. So I'm going to start by going back to high school, when I was figuring out what sort of a job I wanted to do. And this is back even before mobile phones or email addresses were a thing, but only just before that. And I did have a plan. And I was seeing there that most of you have a plan too, or an idea of what you want to do. My plan was very clear, and it's along the lines of Lady Gaga, actually, funnily enough. I had an epiphany about what I thought the best possible job in the world could be, and I was going to go for it. And this was it. Now, if you're having to ask who is Prince, your music teacher is not giving you a full education. I'm just letting you know, Mr. Solomo. You need to go and check that with them. But I was pretty sure anyway that making music like Prince's would be the best job in the world. And check out those costumes, hey? But then I was thinking, you know, there's a slight chance that this won't happen. Maybe I could just be in a band and then earn money that way while I put myself through art school, and then I would be a musician and an artist. But then I also thought there's actually quite a few things at high school I quite like. I really like making things. I love telling stories. I loved maths. I really liked maths. I couldn't see a job in it, but I loved it because I loved solving problems and finding answers. And back then for me, computers were a bit more like fine for doing assignments on or playing Spider Solitaire. I wasn't really interested in computer games at all. So I thought, no, I think the Prince job is going to be the best job I could go for right now. And I thought, well, how do I start? And someone said to me, well, you need to get into the top music course you can. So I applied to a number of music degrees and I didn't get in the first time, but I did get in the second time. And so I packed my bags and my saxophone for the bright lights of Canberra. And you just have to excuse me while I quickly do this. So off I went to Canberra, and this is how it turned out so far. Out of all of these, if you'd asked me at high school, I reckon musician and Go tape teacher were probably the only jobs I knew that existed. And I could go into great detail about all of the crazy things that happened during university and the amazing events that led me to jump from musician to coder. I'll try and touch on that a bit, but I will go down a rabbit hole if I spend time on that. So let's just say I was in New York, literally and metaphorically lost one day in an art museum, and I stumbled across this multimedia artist who blew my mind. And think back to what Tim was showing you about some of those amazing images of Lady Gaga. It was like that, but it was three-dimensional. And I was thinking, gosh, all those things back in high school that I loved doing, she was combining them all. And this was my second epiphany because I was actually struggling with being a musician. I found it really hard being at the front all the time as a sax player. And it was really, you know, insecure and not very confident, a bit like the things Lady Gaga described. So this was an epiphany for me because I thought, geez, I don't have to do just one thing. Now, I look ahead to, I'm going to show you a little bit more here. I want to show you too that I didn't just do one degree or just didn't stop learning after I went to university. I continued to learn. I did move around a little bit during this time. And you can also see that from that second epiphany, I've managed to pile quite a lot in and pursue a lot of my interests and forge a career that way. But I do want to talk a little bit about coding because you guys, in your little quiz that you did with Tim, you did talk about an interest in coding and design. So I want to talk a little bit about that first. So I came back to Canberra after being in New York and I finished my degree because I found out that I could learn how to code as part of my degree, which was really interesting. So I started doing that as an elective, finished my degree, stopped playing saxophone pretty much, and I started coding. And soon after, the government in Canberra wanted people to move from non-IT degrees into IT. So I got a cadetship because I'd had my freshly minted jazz degree, and I got to study a diploma of software development for free. So I learnt to code in HTML, Java, C++, Visual Basic. My HTML exam, I don't know if any of you know what HTML is, but if you like view source on a browser, you'll see that it's got lots of these like tags. I had to do my exam handwritten on pen and paper. That's how hardcore my lecturer was. And if you left one little thing out or made a mistake, that was it. So you can't test anything. It had to all be written. So that was I remember that. Anyway, through this cadetship, they were supposed to find me a job. And I do want to tell you this story because I think you might be coming into that situation a bit with COVID and the financial downturn. A recruitment company was supposed to help place me in an IT job so that I could learn to code. And nothing was coming. They weren't doing anything about it. So I phoned them up and they said, yeah, come in and have a chat. And this man, he was lovely. He was obviously quite experienced and an expert, but he was quite patronising to me. And he was saying to me, this was back when there was a big .com bust, so similar to COVID, but not as bad. And he's saying to me, you know, there's this many thousand jobs are being cut from here, and these jobs are getting cut here, and it's looking really bad. There's all these jobs in IT are getting lost and things like that. And I said to him, I can't remember his name, but I said, listen, I'm just one person and I just need one job. That's all I'm asking for is one job. Help me find it. And he's like, he was a bit taken aback, but he was like, okay. And he did get me a job interview, but the place that I went to wanted me to learn Adobe Flash, which I don't even know if Flash is supported anymore, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about why I love Adobe so much in a minute too, because these guys were like, well, we think you're the right fit, but you don't know Flash and we need you to know Flash. So for the first 2 weeks of my job, I had to teach myself how to code in Flash, and I loved it. But some of the things that I did to do it was I would either Google it, Google was pretty new back then, or I had people around me that would help me, which I thought was wonderful, so other people that I worked with. And then I was only a couple of months in where my boss said to all of us, Adobe are looking to create a user group in Canberra. Is anyone interested in leading it? And I was only, I don't know, 22 or 23. So, you know, a few months into my very first IT job, and I'm like, sure, I'll do it. I don't know why I said yes, but it was awesome because these Adobe user groups, people like Tim would talk to us, they'd tell us about all the cool stuff. Sometimes they'd fly me to conferences, but it was sort of my job to get everyone together that used Adobe products and talk about what sort of things we do with them, what sort of features we want to see and things like that. So I formed this little community in Canberra around Adobe, and it was awesome because I learned so much. There were all these amazing people that knew so much and were really generous with their time. So it only took me a couple of years before I felt ready to really test my skills on the world stage. And so by then I had a fairly serious boyfriend and we moved to London, and that's where I got to do a lot of that freelance Flash development work. When I moved to London, I've had to form a limited company, which sounds very sophisticated, but it's actually quite easy to do. And I had an agent, and the agent would just book me, and I'd go to different design agencies in London and working with just super creative people that were just at the total cutting edge and working with really big clients, with sometimes with rock stars like Robbie Williams's website, and doing things like Vodafone and Toyota. And I remember making little games, with sort of low-level sort of website games for people like Endemol, who make Big Brother. Anyway, it was a brilliant time, and it was at a time where skills in Flash were in high demand, and I was earning a lot of money doing this, and it was a really fun thing to do. But I got homesick, and talking about, like Tim was talking about working from anywhere, I remember one day being on the buses when London was attacked, when there were a lot of bombs went off at once on the subway and the buses. I started to work from home a lot from there in London, and I thought, well, if I'm working from home in London, I may as well move back to Wangaratta. So we moved back and we got married straight after, and started to have family and things, and I just worked out of my spare bedroom. I kept all of my clients in London, and I picked up a few more around the world. I started to work in Melbourne for places, but worked remotely. But one of the things that frustrated me with being a coder was you could put all of your heart and soul into building something and then launch it, and it would fall flat. It wasn't actually it didn't work for some reason. People didn't love it, people didn't use it. And this used to frustrate me. So that's where I wanted to get more involved in the decision-making processes and the design processes at the start. And that's when I got into project management and things like that. So I'm going to fast forward now to show you GHD and what I do here. So these are some of the tech jobs that you can do at GHD. We are, GHD itself is a big company. It's Australian owned. by its employees, but we do things like we build bridges, tunnels, buildings, power plants, dams, all kinds of things. You'll notice there's nothing here about hair straighteners. It's not that GHD. And the GHD digital part is the tech part. Now, I work out of the Wodonga office in GHD, but at the moment I'm working from home, and Tim was mentioning about how it's a total game changer with COVID, and it absolutely is, because when I started at GHD just before COVID, I was the only one working remotely in my team, and now everyone is, and I seamlessly work with people right around the world on all kinds of things, collaborating with them all the time now, and it is just second nature to everybody. So absolutely, Tim and Danielle are right, you can work from anywhere. So I want to play this video for you.
GHD Digital was born with a single vision: to help our clients transform their business, embrace the future, and change communities for good. The way we live and the way we work is changing at a rapid pace. Disruptive forces are impacting industry sectors such as water, environment, energy and resources, buildings, and transport. As students and leaders of digital innovation, we realize organizations can no longer survive operating business as usual. Owners of critical infrastructure and assets must think and act differently in order to drive cultural change and rapidly transform their organizations. Unprecedented change evokes an urgency and responsibility to design a better future together. Simply waiting it out is not an option. Today, the question isn't, do we need to change, but just how fast? GHD Digital is uniquely positioned to answer this question. People first and outcomes obsessed, we combine industry insights with digital mindsets to maximize opportunities for growth and success. Change isn't easy, but it is possible, and the benefits will see you thrive for a lifetime. GHD Digital, transform for good.
So that was actually filmed mostly in our Melbourne office, and the people that you see in that are my actual teammates and bosses that I work with on a daily basis. So that's my team. What do I do? Well, it's my job to sort of lead people through processes like this to make things happen. And these are processes used when we're creating something that's useful or making the world a better place. Remember, I was frustrated. Well, now I love these sorts of processes. So first of all, if I can summarize what all of this design thinking, human-centered design stuff is to first focus on what is the right thing to make, and then we focus on making that thing right. Now, there's a lot in that. It looks really simple, but it's not easy. I'm just going to wrap up again now, just to go back to some of this and to build on what Tim was saying too. Yes, it absolutely is possible more than ever to have a great tech career from the regions, but you need to make sure that you build out your networks with real people and that you keep learning and you keep in touch with those communities and build a community around you. And please just ask whatever you need to learn next, you just ask for it. When I look back through all of this career again, I'm looking at all of the skills that I've picked up along the way and how I continually build on them, but I also use them in new ways as well. So GHD at the moment, I'm learning so much about business. I'm learning about design thinking and working remotely with people around the world. The project management that I've done gives me the confidence and the skills to make things happen. All of that volunteer orange stuff that I've done around arts and governance teaches me about leadership and community building. Being a teacher, I can't think of a more generous job than being a teacher. But my love of making things, sometimes I've had to sort of work out whether I do it for love or money, but Tim made some great points about turning that thing that you're passionate about into money. And I'm going to tell you something about that on my next slide. I still use my coding skills every day. I don't code anymore, but that logic, that absolute certainty that we will build something that works, and that fallback position I have of just Googling something, they're things I still use. And same with my jazz degree. We talked about the STEAM that Danielle was talking about, the arts in this. Discipline, learning to really listen, truly listen, learning how to do hard things, and learning how to perform in people. That's all stuff from my jazz degree that I still use absolutely every day. Now, I think if you look back at this, you can see how many of the things I did that I loved doing back in high school have come out in my career. But did I ever actually get to play with Prince? Well, it must be time for you to ask me some questions. And I also want to give a quick little plug to Startup Shake-Up, because if you are in the Northeast and thinking about turning your passion into something that you want to do, Startup Shake-Up, go and find out that, sign up to the newsletters, because there's heaps of opportunities to and help there for you to help start turning your passion into a business. It's something that we started last year before I started working at GHD. Okay, questions?
Perfect, thanks Emma. So we do have a few questions come through. First question we've got, what types, you mentioned that you worked with Flash before. What types of games did you work on? And did any of your games end up on any of the big Flash game websites like Cool Math Games?
Yeah, look, a lot of the Flash games I worked on were e-learning sorts of games. So I did do a couple of, I did this one in the Netherlands that was like a thing that actually was like a gambling thing, competition. I did some things in the UK that was around oil. It was called Oil Strike, and it was teaching kids in year 12 about the chemistry of using oil and all of the products that come out of oil. And I did a really crazy one for a very rich person in London called Hot Barrels. It was all about, it was like a hunting game that he used to give to his mate. He'd take people on hunting safaris. So no real winners, but the National Museum of Australia was some other sort of e-learning games. So there were games that were sort of meant to educate you, not really. Like I said, solitaire's about as much as I do when it comes to games.
Fair enough. You talked about the projects that you've launched as part of GHD. Do you have any examples of projects you've launched that were successful?
That's actually in GHD?
GHD or in general across your career?
A lot of the coding things that I've done, I was looking around, they don't exist on the websites online anymore. I think Startup Shake-Up was hugely successful. I was involved in that. There's a lot of behind the scenes things. I did an ergonomics piece, which doesn't sound very exciting, but we did that for a bank in Australia, and it got rolled out to their 50,000 staff, and that was a thing that they had to do to learn how to sit at a desk properly or stand at a thing properly. So even things like, I didn't even tell you about this, like back in my early days, we would do things like have to teach people that process passports. We did an e-learning like piece on how a passport is made and all of the different elements that prove that it's not faked. So that, yeah, things like that are really interesting about e-learning, because you end up learning a lot about other things. And of course, there was a big defence project I did on the Eurocopter, the Aussie Tiger helicopters that the Australian Defence were going to buy. And I remember having to animate their control panel in the helicopter, and when you press this button, you had to make something happen. But back in those days, to even use video in something like Flash, I had to make my own playback control. So I'd actually make a little triangle for the play button, and I would code it and things like that. It would take me hours to make these things. If you think about how easy it is and how powerful Adobe products are now, 20 years ago, they've come a long way.
For sure. Technology has come a long way indeed. We have time quickly just for one last question. How would you describe working from home and the differences 10, 15 years ago when you worked from home in London versus working from home now?
Yeah, I think not a lot has changed in terms of how I do it at home, but what the biggest difference is that more people are doing it now, and that makes it easier. When I was the only one doing it, people would forget that I existed, and they wouldn't think to ask me to be on a project or think about my career development or helping to keep me developing so I was getting better and better. I kind of stagnated. But now that there's so many people doing it, it is second nature, and that just means that I'm way more included.
For sure. Thanks, Emma, for your time and actually taking the time out today to talk to all our attendees. I never knew that there are actually so many opportunities for those people living in regional and rural areas.
Thanks, Shonju, and thanks to Kerry and John. And please do keep asking me questions. I will answer all of them later today. And I'm glad you're all thinking about
back to the virtual Big Day in Wangaratta for 2020. We hope you're ready and excited to hear from the next three presenters. We're going to have Kerryn from the Rural City of Wangaratta Council, Calvin Davidson from Microsoft, and Mike Gardiner from BuzzyGames. Remember to hang around till the end, because Mike is going to have an opportunity for you to turn your passions into a job. And he'll be really excited to hear about what opportunities he could be offering to anybody living in regional Victoria coming up in his presentation. But first, we're going to have Kerryn, who's the Business Systems Coordinator at the Rural City of Wangaratta Council. She has worked in local government for 18 years and has lived and worked for the council in Wangaratta for the past 3.5 years. Prior to working in local government, Kerryn worked in the automotive, airline, hospitality, and tourism industries. Kerryn holds a Bachelor of Business in Computer Systems Management from Victoria University. She also loves to be able to help her users make a difference in their job by helping them understand their systems and their business processes. So let's give a warm Wangaratta welcome to Kerryn O'Brien from the Rural City of Wangaratta Council with Making a Difference for People in Local Government.
Thank you, Shonju. What a great introduction. First, I want to say what a great series this Big Day In is. If only we had this when I was 16, I think I would have had a different path, that's for sure. I grew up in a small town in the Northern Territory, and I do remember my first careers day, and it definitely wasn't with all these great presenters. So here's a little bit more about me and my background. So I can remember being 16 and the teachers saying to me, what do you want to do when you grow up, in a sense? Don't you want to go to uni? Don't you want to, do a degree? And I was always like, no way. I just want to get out there and work, experience and do all that sort of stuff. But I do remember my careers day being, I wanted to work in the airline industry. I thought, wow, how exciting. Definitely not an air hostess, I'm way too short for that, but more on the customer service side of things, checking people in, having a chat to them, talking to them about where they're going, what their plans are, whether it's work or business. I was lucky enough to be able to do work experience at the airport in Alice Springs for a company that no longer exists called Ansett Australia. But I absolutely loved the job. I really enjoyed it, and I was fortunate that I could then work there for 4 years. After I left the airline, I decided I wanted to get some new skills. Not IT, still not in IT, because it definitely wasn't in my future, that's for sure. But I wanted different skills, and working with people was great. So I chose an admin type job in the tourism industry, but I also worked in a bar just to get the skills up and talking with customers and all that. So I really love having all these different skills behind me and, not being able to make that difference and have a chat. So my journey in local government. So back in 2002, I moved down to Victoria, to Werribee, and I didn't have a job when I moved. I wanted to try something new. I met a man. So he brought me to the, Victoria in that sense. And I was looking through the paper and a job came up, and it was in regards to customer service and admin. And I went, beauty, this is the job for me. I've got these skills, customer service and, admin. Little did I know that it was a job in local government at council. So I thought, well, let's give it a go. So I did get the job there. So I started in the local laws department in administration. So that area looks after the animals, infringements, and those sort of boring things that adults have to deal with. in that I found that, excuse me, in this position I had a real interest in learning how the different systems made our jobs work. I also had to document how each of these pieces of software made the difference, I suppose, in a sense. And to do my one job, I had 6 different pieces of software to use. So it's quite a bit that we have to deal with. But in 2005, I actually got asked to be the key user. So a key user is the person who knows the most about their job. How do I do that? What do we do? And so that when we're starting to talk to the project team, we then can define or set up the system what we need it to be. This was a huge opportunity, and I was so grateful to be a part of it because it was such an amazing opportunity to learn how systems work, especially large software. And little did I know that I finally found that job that I wanted to do when I grew up, as you know, all these years later. So through this project, I was able to transform the 6 systems that we worked on into one major one. And throughout the rest of the council, we had 25 different software systems that we had to replace. So I helped 3 other departments complete this project, which really was exciting. I moved into the IT department out of to support this new piece of software because our IT department was a bit unsure of what was happening. And from there, I decided it was time to go to uni. So in 2007, I started my uni degree in Bachelor of Business in Computer Systems Management. So from this side of it, it was really exciting to be able to share my work knowledge into my learning. So putting everything that I was doing into my uni and then taking back what I was learning at uni into my job. One day I was talking to one of the users and he was complaining about how the software wasn't actually helping him, and he was really getting frustrated. And so I took the time to say to him, well, what do you want the system to do for you? And it was actually interesting because he was a bit older than me. He goes, no one's ever asked me that question. And that's how I knew I could make a difference. And so I did. I completed my uni degree. I also was a bit crazy. I was still working full time and started a family. So I've got 2 young kids and really enjoy it. So from this, I have been fortunate to stay in local government, but that I have done quite a few different roles. So it's not that I haven't changed up my things and learning. So I've done the administration, I've done IT support, I've gone into an application support officer, I've been a business analyst, I've been a business systems analyst, I've been a systems analyst, and now I'm the coordinator of a team of business systems. So it's pretty cool that you can still progress through even if you stay with the one company. I've also been asked to go to a couple of different ones, but I've chosen to stay with what I know. And to do this, I made the move to northeast Victoria, Wangaratta, and I love that I can still keep my journey going. So can anyone, I've talked about council and local government a bit. Can anyone tell me what local government or council does for the community? If you can put it in the chat, that would be great. No? Okay, it's a bit boring. It's a lot of adult stuff. You might have actually just heard your parents say, oh, bloody council, they never fix the roads and all those fun things, you know, that we have to deal with. But the surprising thing is we actually offer 53 services to the community. So those are including, you know, fixing the roads, picking up the rubbish, parents having to pay their rates. But for the exciting part for the youth, we also have the great sporting facilities that we offer, like your skate parks. We have the art gallery, we have the Performing Arts Centre, we also have the library. So with all that, we have 90 pieces of software that support these services. So it's a fair bit that we have to do and look after. So with that, can anyone maybe name a job that is in IT and council? Okay. So some of the IT jobs that we have at council, we have our help desk, so product manager. Yep, that's a pretty cool one. So we have our help desk. So our help desk is where we take those first lines of calls from the users. My computer's broken. I think I've clicked on the wrong link. Oh my goodness, I can't turn it on. And yes, we do use the line of have you turned it on and off again? And it's amazing how much that actually works. We have our network administrator. So he's responsible for all the making sure everything's up and running, our internet's working. He also is responsible for our cybersecurity, so making sure that we're secure and that we don't have any breaches. And it's interesting that we were one of the government centres that actually did sort of get some hacked emails sent through just recently with the COVID stuff, if you heard about that in the news. Business systems analyst, which I'll talk about shortly. Geographic information systems. So this is an interesting part of our area, which I'm going to talk about a bit more. So we call it GIS. It's all about maps. Our business intelligence. So that's using the data and making it more readable. We also have our SharePoint developers. So this is how we can actually share the knowledge through the organisation, and really has been a pinnacle of how we've been able to work remotely during the COVID times. Office 365 administrator. So this is the person who can explore and expand all the tools that Microsoft offer. There's some pretty cool ones out there. IT project management. Because we do have so many software, we've also got a lot of large ones, and they do get replaced, you know, maybe every 5 years. So we need to make sure they are kept on track. We have information management. So this is about our records and how we keep them secure, as well as the data. So all the emails that are sent in and those sort of things. So, and how long we have to keep it for. And our web developers. So making everything look pretty, I suppose, in our website and that side of things. So today, excuse me. So today I'm going to talk about what my area, I'm real good with technology, can you tell? I can say, I'm going to talk about my area, which is the business systems. I really like to think it's the people side of IT. So this is where we get to talk with our customers and all these sort of things. So I've been fortunate, I've been in this side of things for the last 10 years, and now I lead a pretty fantastic team. So with this, you know, we have our business analysts and support team, and also our GIS specialists. So we really have an exciting team of what we've got coming up. So some of the key skills that are really important for this role is what I call the people skills. So being able to have a good chat, really, you know, finding out what the users need. In a sense, we're the missing piece to the puzzle. So we find out what they need, we turn it into the technical terms, and then tell the software providers what we need assistance to do. We also need to understand our business knowledge. So how do I define that? So really it's how I do my job that impacts you. So it might be from, you know, an animal registration coming in, but it can help out some of the other areas. And it's surprising that a lot of the different areas that work together don't realise how what they do actually impacts the other area. So that's what we really bring to the company. Technology skills. So I wouldn't say I am very technical with some stuff. If I get a virus at home, I still have to talk to my IT guys to help me out, but more on what's the new technology out there, exploring new ideas, you know, what other solutions are out there, how can we do that side of it, and problem solving. So we have the users come to us and say, oh, it's not working today, I did it this way yesterday. So you have to sort of get in and really nut out and try and work out what they've done. So, and I suppose the bit that I love is actually talking to them and finding out what they're doing and how I can make a difference and change their role. So researching these new things. The other things that we do in business systems, which is really interesting, many of us have a smartphone today, and we simply say yes to update. Unfortunately, with some of these large pieces of software, we really have to upgrade them ourselves. We have to make a plan. We have to look at what different improvements have been done that the companies have pushing through. So we have to talk to the users, get them ready, get them involved in testing. So when I say testing, so I've got to make sure that they work through their puzzles. If we upgrade and it breaks, then I'm in trouble. So we make sure that they can go through everything. And a lot of these updating actually happens after hours. So we are in the process of looking at a lot more software that's cloud-based. So we get to select yes and then think about what changes have happened. So we're moving to the future, hence the picture. So we are time to upgrade ourselves as well. Integration. So you may or may not know what this is. So integration is how we get each of the systems to talk together. It can be quite in-depth. So let's think about our apps. How do we make them talk to each other? So this is what integration is. It can be quite specialised. We can have our coding and programmers involved in this side of things. But most of the time you're talking to the companies, the tech giants in a sense, to say, hey, you need it to talk to this and pull this bit of information. I like to be able to make sure that our users aren't having to do too many extra steps to do something when we put this in. Right, so that's around the business system side of things. The next exciting part of my team, we work in our what we call the GIS space, and graphical information systems. So really, how can council use maps to make a difference? So I'm sure that with all our smartphones, we use our Google Maps quite regularly. And if you open up your Google Maps and you zoom in, nowadays it actually shows you where a restaurant is or where a park is. At council, we use it to sort of work out where the busy areas are or what the community needs in a sense. So we look at, in this scenario, where all the paths are getting used in Wangaratta. So we have our cycling paths, our walking paths and our existing shared paths. So this is just one side of things that we can do. We can also help businesses to work out where the busy parts of the town is so that they might want to start a business. Where do people want to do exercise? So this is one part of it. Now, where the future is going. We all know about VR. Augmented reality is coming into the GIS space as well. So we are using and starting to look at augmented reality to be able to help us understand where the pipes are underground, how we better lay those pipes. And even the Victorian government have got quite a lot involved with this side of it. So it really is helping us plan and design better for the future. I'm not going to play the YouTube clip, but I will work with the team to put these up if you want to look at them later. The Victorian government, as I said, is really starting to step up how they're using technology and innovation. So the next thing that they're doing is part of what we call the digital twin. This is Fisherman's Bend in the city. So they really are bringing all the data together in the GIS side of things. Instead of it just being a 2D level of map, they're bringing in the layers, and with the layers, then the digital side of things. From this screen, we could actually see, and we can plan to see what the impacts of the heights of buildings and all those different areas are happening. So it really is some interesting side of things that are coming out in the future, especially, you know, and the government, the bigger government trying to drive it. So next question, and I'm going to take a bit of a breather, and I'm going to ask you to help me answer this. Who can tell me what big data is and how we can use it? Anything coming through? Large amounts of data. Yep, exactly. So nowadays we have data and information everywhere. And with all these different systems, we've got to try and work out how we can use that data. So business intelligence actually brings in all the raw data from all these systems together and help us to make better decisions. So with the decisions, it could be where are our customers using the pass, using that side of things. How are we tracking our projects? Are we overspending? Making it easy to read as well, because we're not all technology minded as well. So when we have our executives or the people really making the decisions, they like to see it in a different format, which I'll show you in a minute. We are able to use it to track trends to see how we're going with customer requests and all that side of things. An interactive report, so you can drill down and you can go to the next layer of data. So how we're using that data in local government, this is just one example, is how our customer requests are tracking. So we can see that all the requests that we've had in 4 years. So we've had a total of 43,000 requests. How have we closed them? How are we tracking on our trends? Have we taken too long? Are we not really living up to our customers' expectation? We can then also see where the locations of these requests are coming through. So then we can start to think about, well, is that a problem area? How do we fix that? How can we move it, and all those side of things? And so that's really some of the uses of business intelligence, or BI, and big data. Out there, there's so many opportunities for this side of things. You know, we could interrogate all the data that we've got going on with COVID, but I thought we'd leave that out of this. So they're the 3 areas that I just wanted to focus on for this part of this presentation, things that I'm quite passionate about and I love. There are all those skills that we're talking about, being problem solvers and all this sort of thing. So again, these are just some of the IT jobs in local government. So you don't necessarily have to move out of the area. You could have a look close to home, especially in the regional Victoria. And I love that I've moved up here to see and be a part of this, and, you know, continue my journey of helping users. So my little parting gift for you guys to think about. Uni can happen actually at any age. So if you're not sure what you want to do right now, don't worry about that. Go out, live life, take some adventures, take some challenges to yourself. Build up the skills that you're good at. If you're good at communicating and all those sort of things, that's not a bad thing. It really makes an impact in my job. Try new things, new jobs, ask questions all the time. This is how you can learn, how you can get out there and see. Michelle Obama, I find a very inspirational person. So as she says, try new things, don't be afraid, step out of your comfort zone and soar. Thank you for your time today. So if you've got any questions, let's fire away.
Thanks, Kerryn. Yeah, we do actually have a few questions. We'll sort of start more with your work with council. Have you been involved in any of the actual development of the software that local council has done?
So I wouldn't say development as in coding and programming, but what I do is I configure it. So configuring it, setting it up. So in a sense, I am part of that. So I talk to the team or the users and find out. So I might have to configure how the sequence of events work, how it would generate a letter, raise a fee, those sort of things. So yeah, we do still in a sense have some of that programming that we need to do.
Yeah, for sure. I know you went over a few before, but can you give a few more examples of software that the rural city of Wangaratta Council in particular uses?
Okay, so I noticed that one of the ACSs and the Big Day In sponsors is Technology One. So Technology One is a large tech giant in Australia that are focused on local government and some of the other industries. So we have a few of their suites of software. So we have our property and rating suite and that sort of things. We do actually have some Adobe products as well. So they're used in our creative area. So for our events team and those sort of things, and our economic development team. We also have our customer request management system. We have the mapping system. We also have our payroll system. So that's just some of the bigger systems, but there's also a lot of other little ones.
Yeah, I can imagine there's probably heaps.
Mm.
Because there's so many systems, how do you store such a large amount of data associated with those systems? And are there like certain measures that you have to do in order to keep that data safe?
Yeah, certainly. So a lot of these data are kept in their own databases. So they all store their own individual data. Some of them are shared, which is what we use the integration for. We do have quite strict security protocols, so we can set that up ourselves to make sure that only particular users see information. And we work closely with our network administrator to make sure that that security is right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the network administrator would be a key player in that discussion as well.
Yep.
How would a student go about getting a job in local government? Do they need a degree to start, or are there like other pathways in which they can take?
It can be a number of different ways. I would even consider approaching or get your school to approach them to see if you could do some work experience to start with. We have in the past offered a traineeship, so just to start on the service desk side of things. I know that for myself, I'd like to start to talk to my manager about seeing if we can get some graduate positions in there to learn some of the different areas. So I want to try and push that from our side to definitely keep, you know, the regional kids up here as well, because I think there are some exciting opportunities to help out. But if not, start in admin like I did, and then you never know. We've got a couple of big projects coming up, or even customer service. It's a really good way to start to know how the business works first.
I know you mentioned technology one in one of your previous responses, but you also mentioned that at council there's a SharePoint developer. Does that refer to like the Microsoft SharePoint? And if so, do you guys do any collaborative work with them to ensure that that sort of software serves your purpose?
So we do have a specialist. So he's got a developer programming background. So he's doing a lot of that himself. So he really has made it that we've got our internal knowledge base now. So we can click on any link. He looks at whether it's our document storage or, you know, launching out to other websites and stuff. I'm pretty sure he's been working with other partners. What a partner is other companies that offer the same service as as Microsoft. Sorry, I'm fumbling my way through now. But we do work closely and we've got those partners. So, or we do the same. We research and Google it, like what Emma says. You know, I'm a lot of self-taught as well. And there's amazing the resources that are available nowadays.
Perfect. We've got time just for one final question. What advice would you give to any students or even graduates who are considering either the technical or the more like business person-oriented side of IT?
Oh, I think just play to your strengths as well. As I said, when I started out, I wasn't very technical, or technology can be taught. If you're good with your people side of things, stick with that, especially on the business side of things, because we work as a team. So I've got 3 in my team, but we've also got, you know, 8 people in our area, and you work with them and you share your knowledge and you learn it that way. So I think don't be afraid to play to your strength nowadays. And, you know, I watched one of Tim's presentations earlier, and those vital skills are amazing. They really are, and I think we all talk about that in all of our journeys. People skills, being creative, analytical thinking, challenge the way you want to do things.
Sounds good. Really inspiring and an amazing story that you actually have. Thanks for taking your time out today, Kerryn, to talk to us.
No worries, thank you. And if you've got any further questions, I'm sure to answer them later on. So thank you and good luck for the future.
Cheers. Yeah, local government sounds like an interesting space to work in from a tech perspective, and it sounds like a challenge that a lot of students attending today could actually be interested in. Our next presenter for today is Calvin Davidson from Microsoft. Calvin is a technology specialist at Microsoft in the education sector, but his path there has been anything but straightforward. Prior to working at Microsoft, he worked in marketing, engineering, music, film, tutoring, retail, and hospitality. He's going to tell us all about his journey into the tech industry, his thoughts on the differences and similarities between the arts and sciences, and his observation on future industry trends. So please give a warm welcome to Calvin Davidson from Microsoft with Winding Roads to Tech, balancing the arts and sciences.
Excellent, thank you. Thanks for the wonderful introduction there. I assume my slides and everything are coming through, so I'll just keep going. But anyhow, as you would have already heard, my name is Calvin Davidson. I work for Microsoft. I assume you have heard of Microsoft. Obviously, we do Windows and Office and all that kind of stuff, Minecraft. We also are pretty big on a lot of our cloud services, which you may not be familiar with. since it's not particularly a sort of a end user kind of customer thing, but Azure is our cloud platform, which we do a lot with in terms of running, servers and infrastructure and storage and all the rest. I myself work on the education team, so my job is sort of helping schools and unis map out a bit of a digital strategy around what they kind of want their future state to be like in terms of technology, and helping them sort of roadmap and get there. So that's everything from a school being like, hey, how do I install Microsoft Word, to something bigger like, oh, we want to build a big data lake and run analytics on it to understand what will help our students thrive and what sort of study areas they need to focus on, or something like that. So yeah, that's a bit about me. Before I go any further, I do just want to do a quick acknowledgement to country of the Wurundjeri people whose land I'm dialing in from today, down in Melbourne, and acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of the land and leaders past, present, and emerging. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got to where I am. As you heard in the intro, I didn't take a particularly straightforward path to get into the technology industry. I did a whole lot of sort of random things and kind of ended up here, not quite by accident, but like a little bit almost by accident. So yeah, anyway, so starting around sort of the mid 2000s was when I was in high school. Finished that up. I did mostly a lot of sort of artsy kind of subjects in high school, history and film and all the rest. And I ended up going to uni to do a Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Music. At the time, it was something. I mean, I was very heavily involved in the kind of music scene as much as one can be in my hometown of Auckland. I'm from New Zealand. At Auckland, I should probably said. I can see the subtitles doesn't quite match up to my accent, so maybe that kind of says something. But anyhow, so yeah, New Zealand, Auckland. Went to the University of Auckland, did art and did music, and yeah, finished that off. It was good. Gave me a lot of sort of skills and perspectives. From there, I went into a bit of tutoring, did some traveling, did a bit of bartending, did a number of sort of bits and pieces as I kind of, as opportunities kind of came up. Next, went into retail. So that retail job, probably the one that I spent the most time in, definitely the job that I hated the most as well. And as a bit of a side hustle, I was doing some, performance stuff and video production too. Those were a lot of fun. The retail, not so much. But in any case, I spent a long time doing sort of retail work. Ended up getting pretty tired of it. I found myself in my own time doing a lot of just sort of research and reading for fun on, sciences and mostly like space. I just watched a lot of space videos on YouTube and watched like rocket launches and stuff, and just got like really hyped about space and science. And anyway, from there I decided, oh hey, maybe I should do something kind of sciencey, and took a step back and went to university again for the second time and did a Bachelor of Engineering. I ended up doing that in mechatronics, which is a discipline that's a combination of it's mechanical and electrical and computer science and software all kind of rolled into one. Perhaps out of indecisiveness, because I wanted to sort of do it all. Perhaps because I wanted to build robots or something. I don't know. It's a cool discipline and it appealed to me on a number of levels at the time. While I was studying, I had a job in sort of an electronics factory. It was, it was mostly there for sort of like work experience, but just also, a bit of cash over summer or whatever as well. Not the best job in the world. I was on like an assembly line. It was me and a bunch of little old ladies kind of getting like circuit boards. Basically, I'd get a circuit board and look at it and check that it's all kind of working all right, run a few tests through a computer, put a sticker on it and pass it on to the next person, and just kind of do that for like 8 hours. It was good for the summer, but it wasn't the best. But anyway, whatever. That's a bit of a side note. That was a university job. But on the back of some of my university studies, I got into a group which was sort of a leadership development group. And they got me in touch with another group that was scouting for internships. And jumping through a few hoops, actually I was interviewing with them for a job in with a building company for working one of their factories, and ended up somehow getting offered a job at Microsoft instead off the back of that. They kind of called me and were like, "Oh yeah, you can, if you want the factory job, yeah, cool, but we've also got this Microsoft marketing one going if you want that instead." So obviously, I couldn't turn down the opportunity to work at a company as big and reputable as Microsoft. It was a marketing internship, which was very strange because I'd never done marketing before. But took it and picked up a few new skills alongside. So I was still studying engineering at this time and doing sort of part-time marketing stuff with Microsoft. This was back in Auckland, and then through there leads to today, where I got a role through the graduate program into Microsoft in Melbourne. So jumped ship, moved over here, and this is where I've been for the last 2 and a bit, nearly 3 years, in my role now. So my day to day, I mean, kind of explained on the outset, but yeah, working with schools and unis and kind of doing a lot of that. My job is sort of half sales, half kind of consulting and advising, I suppose. So a lot of the time it's chatting to schools about what are the problems, what do they really want to achieve, what's really hurting right now in terms of blocking those dreams that they have or whatever, and kind of helping map that out. And then I usually call someone else to do the hard work and sort of actually make it happen. But so my job's more on that kind of high level sort of strategy side of things. A few takeaways that from my own point of view of how I kind of ended up here. And now look, again, my journey here was not straightforward, and I didn't ever really kind of I didn't exactly plan for the role that I have now. I mean, even some of the big decisions that I did make, like going back to uni to study engineering, that was a big life decision, right? Like that was, I'm changing what I'm doing now. I'm going into this sort of tech thing, but I've come out the other side of that study, and I'm not even engineering, So now my job is more sort of sales and kind of consulting, and sure, it's in the tech industry, but my point is that these plans and dreams change over time and evolve over time. And the second point is really the main thing that served me well, is that just staying curious and chasing opportunities is how I ended up where I am. It would have been very easy for me to, I don't know, be too scared to go back to study engineering rather than chasing something there, or be a bit weirded out by this marketing thing that I was offered for this internship, because I didn't know anything about marketing, so I don't want to be a marketer, but just being curious and chasing opportunities as they arise, and that's really what serves me well. This last point ties into that, and that's another kind of key thing that I personally have learned through my journey, is that I think when we talk about careers and direction where we want to go, we're very quick to jump towards goals, and I kind of goals are useful. I don't want to dismiss them too much, but I kind of don't believe in them that much. I don't think they're as powerful as people make them out to be. They're good to orient yourself and kind of get a general sense of where you're going, but for me personally, the best thing you can do is build quality systems into your everyday life, because ultimately you're never gonna rise to an ambitious goal just by virtue of having an ambitious goal. You never rise to the level of your goals. You always fall to the level of your systems, right? So what I mean by that is what systems, what habits do you have? What's your just general sort of operating mindset? If you've got a growth mindset, as in, you're willing to learn, you're willing to fail, and you're willing to correct whatever path you're on, you're willing to be sort of a bit more vulnerable. That's a good sort of system to have into your life. Good habits. If you're constantly learning, or you're just whatever it is that kind of puts you on an everyday sort of path to incremental kind of success, I think that's what really counts. And that's kind of something that's from my own sort of personal point of view, but it was running with opportunities as they came up and being aware of them, and it's because of the systems that I had in place is what kind of allowed me to sort of uncover those opportunities and have the courage to chase them. So yeah, that's kind of me as to where I kind of got how I ended up where I am. My next little thing that I kind of want to rant about within this in this forum is a comment that comes up very often when I talk about my journey here, is that people often go, oh, okay, like you started off very artsy, you know, you started off doing music and film, but then you went to science, you went to technology, so that must have been a huge change. And how do you know, how does that work? That doesn't make any sense. Can you even do both? Blah, blah, blah. And I just want to say that's absolute rubbish. Like, we create this false binary of you know, tech people have this particular set of tech skills, and that gets you into this tech job. And it's not true. Like the arts and the sciences go hand in hand, and are both really, really important. You know, especially looking towards the future of technology, and I'll touch on this in a couple of slides. But looking towards you know, I mean, technology already dominates our lives, and it's only increasing, right? And I think we need all sorts of perspectives that arts and sciences can both sort of offer, to really thrive and really get the most out of the kind of technology that's emerging. But you know, a couple of things that I pick on to sort of drive this point home. You know, music. I'm a big, you know, I studied music and stuff as well as science, and music is, there's, you know, when you look at the underlying physics that underlies music, there's a lot of mathematics in there, there's a lot of physics in there, of course, and that translates into real beauty of music, you know. This is a sunflower, I think, seeds, but if you've ever read up on Fibonacci sequences and the golden ratio, there's some really stunning maths that emerges from the, you know, counting the number of these little, I don't know if they're seed pods or whatever, but the spirals, you can probably see these spirals and the numbers in there. I mean, purely aesthetically, it's absolutely beautiful, but there's a lot of maths in there too, right? I think this was just like a nebula or a galaxy. I think I just included this one because it's rad. But, you know, again, science and art. This is one of Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci, you recognize, what did he do? Did he do Mona Lisa? Artist guy and sciencey dude, right? And he made a lot of inventions and designs in his early work. This is like a helicopter that he designed. Not particularly functional, but it's just still cool that he was creative within his scientific, within a scientific lens as well. And he actually had I think he's part of his sort of, I don't know if you could call it a career journey back in those times, but he worked within theatre production companies as well, and that's where a lot of his creative designs came from. So, you know, he was truly a man of science and a man of arts as well. And you know, and I think that's something that all of us should aspire to sort of blend. Creativity, curiosity, and critical thinking are essential parts of both the arts and sciences. I suppose that probably speaks for itself, but you know, it's really, you know, critical thinking. Take that for example. You know, science is based on you know, observation and testing and methods and all that kind of stuff. So there's obviously a lot of critical thought within there, but so is arts. You know, you think of philosophy or how you know, even, you know, literary criticism or film criticism or whatever. It's all three of these: creativity and curiosity and critical thinking. They're all so integral to both arts and science, and we need all of those really to thrive in a world dominated by tech, as I alluded to before. A couple of things from my own sort of thoughts to kind of round that point out. Artificial intelligence and automation. You know, like social media algorithms. This is all stuff that we, you know, that we're all living with day to day, you know. And you know, I was reading up on a study that was done on biases in automation and artificial intelligence, which came around from a woman who was doing a facial recognition study, I think. Well, she was developing this sort of like a kind of app bit of technology, whatever. Anyway, she found that as she was developing this product that she was working on, she was a black woman, African American woman in the States, and she found that the facial recognition technology couldn't recognize her face simply because of the color of her skin. And when she put on a white mask for her white colleagues, that's when it recognized it. they went down this bit of a rabbit hole on biases in AI and automation and big data, and there's a lot of them. And it's not because anyone's inherently like coding racist stuff into these apps. It's just because of the perhaps lack of diversity that the data sets were drawing upon to sort of to give the intelligence to this bot, to this app, and it was only reflecting what had been fed, and unfortunately it had been fed a very biased data set. So that just kind of speaks to you've got to be aware of this kind of stuff, right? Even if you're not working in this sort of space, what is being automated around us, and who is being included and who's being excluded. It's can have very very real world effects that flow on from that. Same with social media algorithms. Like some things like Facebook is particularly bad for this, misinformation, fake news, where you can get bots influencing real political decisions that can have really terrible flow-on effects. Same with the pseudoscience, and man, we see a lot of that at the moment, right? With people crying about 5G or anti-vaccines or COVID as a hoax or whatever like that. This is all stuff that you need to think critically about, but also it's really strongly driven by technology and our understanding of technology and our interaction with technology. So I mean, I know that's a very broad topic, and that can sort of tie into your own day-to-day life as well as work and career. But I think it pays to sort of think about and learn about, and I think it also highlights the importance of getting into a job in tech if it's something that interests you. But I want to break down the idea of who should be in tech as well, and the importance of having that diversity in tech too. So like particularly with around the bias stuff or the automation stuff, the more diverse voices that we have in technology, the more we can sort of correct the path that we may be messing up at the moment. So yeah, that's a bit of a rant. Hope you enjoyed it. Otherwise, technology industry in 2020 is a really interesting one. I've been working from home since March. So coming up to 6 months soon, and still a global company, big company. I've got colleagues all around the place. Here in Melbourne, across Australia, as well as in the States, in New Zealand, and Singapore, all around the place. So there's this shift towards working from home and this reliance from technology that I think has been highlighted by COVID, but also I think speaks to the ubiquity of technology everywhere, and also the accessibility of technology and working in the industry, regardless of whether you don't have to be in Silicon Valley in the States to be making it big in technology now. You can be doing it really from everywhere. You can be doing it from your house, whether that's in a traditional sort of tech hub, or whether it's your own backyard, wherever you are now. So yeah. That's it for me. That's kind of everything. I hope that was kind of interesting as my career journey, and also sort of thoughts on the industry and stuff as well. I'm not looking at questions, so if there are any questions, I've got time to answer as many as time allows. I'll stop sharing my screen, so we can look at each other. But yeah, any questions?
Yeah, no, definitely. We've got some questions here about your presentation and the meta of your presentation as well, I guess. Firstly, a few questions about the software that you used for your presentation and the subtitles. What program did you use for that? And was it PowerPoint that comes with that subtitle software?
Yeah. That's just a regular part of vanilla Office 365 PowerPoint. So I mean, not to get too boring about it, but PowerPoint. So there's Office 365 PowerPoint, but some people might be running older versions of Office 2019 or 2016 or something like that. But one of the models that we have now with our software is that we're always constantly updating and adding new features. So I don't know how long the subtitles have been in there for, but that is just regular normal PowerPoint Office 365. Yeah. So it's if you've got access to PowerPoint, you've probably got that feature as soon as you go presentation mode. If you don't, it might just because you're on an old version, but it's nothing special. Well, it's cool, but it's nothing inaccessible to anyone who doesn't already have PowerPoint.
Fair enough. Also, sort of on that topic, do you know roughly how that works, and does that use AI or ML to achieve high level of accuracy? Because it was quite accurate.
Yeah. I don't know heaps about what's under the hood there, but yeah, it will be running on AI. We've got we've got a number of like tools within PowerPoint and also within, OneNote and Word around sort of dictating or reading back. It does utilize AI running on Azure, our cloud service. So I do believe you have to be connected to the internet to run the subtitles, I think. So it's always constantly dialing in and figuring that out. But that's about as much as I know. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, sort of working more towards your job now and your role, what is your like day-to-day role as a tech specialist actually involve?
Yeah, right. It's a bit of a mixed bag. Inevitably, a lot of it is answering emails. A lot of it is sitting in meetings and presenting in meetings, and some of it's presenting more broadly. But there's the biggest component, I think. So I work with an account executive. He kind of deals with all the more sort of businessy stuff, while I deal with more the kind of technical knowledge. So my role is a bit more of a tech focused rather than, I say it's sort of salesy, but it's my job is to sort of understand the technology pretty well. And then I'm partnered with a guy who does the sort of business admin kind of sort of stuff too. And so we, most of our time is spent meeting with schools, but like so there's a few thousand sort of customers that sit underneath us, so inevitably there's a lot of planning in there as well. So we do a lot of planning in terms of where we think there's opportunities for growth, to help schools or to sell something or whatever, and then we kind of meet with them, chat with them, and then depending on their needs, I might go do a demo for them around a particular bit of technology. I might share with them, a bit of a roadmap on where the technology is going. I might just help them understand what a product is. Like a lot of the time, it's people who've bought stuff and don't understand what the heck to do with it. So I might just help them understand, like how does this particular tool fit into their goals and aims. And it's a lot of that kind of stuff, sort of rinse and repeat. Really, yeah, a lot of demos, a lot of presentations, a lot of chatting to schools and customers in general.
Yeah, absolutely. How is that process and that part of your job, I guess, has that changed a lot with COVID-19 and being in lockdown now? Has that changed not only in the mechanics of your job, but also what customers expect and what they're looking for?
Yeah, it has. It's changed in a number of ways. First, I think it changed a lot in terms of people's priorities, in terms of schools' priorities. It's kind of funny, man. There were a lot of schools that I would be, calling or talking to a lot, being like, "Hey, you guys are using Teams? Teams is great, eh?" And they'd be like, "Nah, we don't need any of that Teams stuff." And then as soon as remote learning became mandated, all of a sudden I was their best friend, how do I use Teams? What's Teams? And all this kind of stuff. So it's certainly changed people's priorities and shifting towards like a cloud, using the cloud more rather than using sort of, on-premise data centers or, a big server in their basement or whatever kind of old school stuff they're using. And enabling technology that use the cloud and use and allows for, remote collaboration and file sharing and all that kind of stuff. So that's one big change was, in terms of their priorities. I think, I've seen a lot of schools go through like, 5 years worth of digital transformation in like 3 months, which is quite stunning. The second is just, in terms of my workflow. I mean, like I said, I've been working from home here. This is just, you can't see because I've got the background on. This is just my bedroom, and that's been a big change for me personally. My role, before I'd be traveling around a lot around Australia, to meet with people sort of face to face. So, I was spending a lot of time in, Sydney or Perth and Adelaide in particular. And even in Melbourne here, like local, go out to a school or whatever, and meet in person, which has changed a lot. So now everything's remote, which is not more than just the change in sort of physical geographical space, but also just now, like just being on the phone screen for ages, you get back-to-back meetings because there's no more commute, and also the other thing from that is you see a very different side of your colleagues and customers too. Like I've been on a phone call with like my boss, or even like my boss's boss's boss, where they're like their kid will wander into the room and they'll have to like, "Oh, excuse me, sorry," and turn off their video, or even just like yell like, "No, you can't play on the Xbox now," off screen, just funny things like that. So it's changed. I think there's been a bit more of like personal life has kind of seeped into professional life, which actually I think is nice. It shows a different side to people. And so it's a bit weird, but it's good, I think, on balance. Well, other than the pandemic thing, it's very interesting now. So it's a lot's changed actually, yeah, with COVID, a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. We have one question. Is being a tech specialist considered a high-paying job in Microsoft?
Look, well, that's a tricky question to ask. To answer, I will say, like, Microsoft is, as if you're just concerned about money, like Microsoft's a good place to be. To be frank, it's they pay very well, and there's a lot of cool benefits that kind of come with it too, like particularly around sort of travel, well, not travel right now, but and career development as well. Like Microsoft is really supportive of developing your skills and kind of leveling up and all this kind of stuff too. My position, I mean, I came in as a grad. I came in as an intern and then a grad. So naturally, I'm at the bottom tier of Microsoft itself. Just by virtue of being early in my career, but it's still a very good position to be in. And I think it's, looking at the tech industry in general, like there's a lot of good roles out there, but I think that there is a lot of prestige in working for one of the most valuable companies in the world. It's a good job. It is good. Yeah. So even at the lower levels of the ladder, so to speak, as from grad and early in career, it's really good.
Yeah, based on all the opportunities you've got as well, it sounds like really good.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. That's all the time we have for questions, but thanks, Calvin, for all your fascinating insights.
Yeah, no, all good. Pleasure to be here, and yeah, thanks for having me. Hope you learned something. Hope it's useful.
Cheers. Yeah, always important to hear from people in industry and to find balance between arts and STEM. So I'm sure that now working in technology is no different, and it's good to hear from your perspective about that. The final presenter that we've got for today, for the virtual Big Day in Wangaratta, is Mike Gardiner. Mike is on a mission to get 100 million students collaborating and creating their own games by 2025. He's the founder of BuzzyGames and an advocate for accessible STEM education for K-12 students. Coding games since the age of 12, at 21, he founded his first software development company, and since then has led the development of over 50 applications and 20 games. Now at BuzzyGames, Mike leads a development, design, and coaching team that helps teachers and students design projects and use online tools to have fun while building critical future skills. For the final presentation of today, let's welcome Mike Gardiner from BuzzyGames with collaboration and creativity, future work skills.
Thanks, Georgiou, and hello everybody. It's good to be back virtually in Wangaratta and everywhere else that everyone's tuning in for. Now, I'm going to share my screen in a moment, and if those of you who've seen me do this talk before on the importance of collaboration and creativity, you haven't seen today's. So I've got an announcement that I'm so excited to make today, and for those that are attending today, at the end, I'll be talking about how we are going to help create impact and opportunity in Wangaratta and surrounding from today, with the opportunity for 30 students over the age of 15 to be trained and join our cohort of coaches who earn $25+ an hour coaching game design and coding. So give me one moment and I will make sure that we are shared the right screen. Okay, and if Georgiou, if you could let me know if that's coming through okay.
Yep, we're good to go.
Excellent. Okay, so just quickly, I'm going to run through a bit about myself. For those who don't know me, I'm the founder of BuzzyGames, and as mentioned, this is the mission that we're trying to deliver on before the end of 2025. So I want to see, before I leave this planet, if I can, I want to see 100 million students across the globe connected to each other, collaborating, making, playing, creating, and coding their own games. At BuzzyGames, we envisage within 5 years, we could help give the world a GitHub-like entity that was not fueled by software engineers in workplaces, but was driven by students like yourselves that have a passion for creating, coding, solving problems. So it's my dream job. I'm not going to lie. It took me a while to get to this point and have my dream job, but it definitely was something I had a chance to start early in. This is why, or what we love about this mission. It's seeing kids like yourself across the globe coming together, creating game designs, working out problems, making decisions on what to keep, what not to keep, and then with the help of our coaches, getting the skills and the ability to make those ideas become real. And then turning around and watching your mates in class or your friends and family get to play those games that you make. This happens pre-COVID, or it did happen in classrooms. Things changed a little bit this year, right? And that allowed us to focus on how we could deliver this at home, live online using Zoom. And that's what we do right now. So we get to see kids from the US, UK, NZ, and Australia connecting every day, making, playing, and testing games. What does that experience look like for anyone who hasn't done a BuzzyGames team project or come to a creative club? Well, I'm going to play this video real quick, and you can just sit there back and have a watch and see what it's like.
It was awesome.
It was really fun.
Pretty good. Super duper fun. Awesome.
Now, a lot of those kids would have been the ages between 6 and probably 12, and that's the majority of kids that we coach. The announcement I'm going to make in probably 6 to 8 minutes from now is about the opportunity for those of you who are over 15 to, for the very first time, join our army of coaches and deliver that experience. So just keep that in mind. If that's the kind of thing you'd like to earn money helping make a thing, then I'm going to share with you real soon how you could go about doing that. So before we do, let's see if we can get this. Yeah, so normally I'd be talking about how lucky we are to be alive in this point in time. And I would probably already have asked you what the number 700 trillion means. And some of you may have guessed that that was the probability of being alive right now in this amazing time. But today, what I want to focus on is highlighting a couple of things that have happened because of COVID that have put all of us in regional and rural areas at an advantage. Okay, and a lot of times we don't get free wins like this, and a lot of times it's hard to see what is the opportunity through disruption and chaos and pain and all these things that I have no doubt every single one of us right now has experienced in different ways and different levels. So I'm just going to walk through a couple of slides real quick, I want to share the bigger picture in terms of disruption, and I'm going to tie it just to an example of myself where I experienced some disruption. Now, all of you will have your own examples of things that just didn't go to plan, things that caught fire, things that just didn't work. So for me, I founded BuzzyGames about 2 years ago with that mission that I described. About 3.5 months after that, I was lucky enough to survive a surfing injury, which was, pretty close to not being able to walk away from or even wake up the next day. Now that was disruptive, right? I had all these plans. We were, going to Big Day In, I think another week at another event, and we had these other things planned, and we were going to work on the app. This was a disruption. Just like COVID, for us, we've had our education, our work, and our lives completely disrupted. Okay, and what can happen in these situations, which we've seen, is from that disruption, you can be given an opportunity to look at things differently. Okay, for me, it was to focus on how can I get my recovery optimized? What are the things I could do? It actually, had some side benefits I'm going to mention in a second. But for us coming out of COVID, as a business, what it meant for us at BuzzyGames, it meant that all of our amazing Big Day In events had to be put back. Our events with other partners, where we would go out to kids and provide these workshops in class, was pretty much within 3 days cancelled. So as a leader of a small team with a big mission, I had to make some quick decisions on, was there an opportunity here, or was there not? Most times there is, okay? And we need a little bit of time sometimes to see through the chaos. Our team spent about 4 to 5 days trying to make some good guesses based on what was happening around us. And for you, I'm sure you have an example where you were in this state of uncertainty. Now, a lot of times we are swimming in uncertainty, and for some of the most amazing jobs on the planet, they require the kind of people that can dive into uncertainty, excuse me, to embrace the unknowns, to embrace the failures, embrace the stuff ups, and to come out the other side with clarity or opportunity. So this was the evolution. For me, the evolution for me coming out of my disruptive surfing stunt was that I had a recovery plan that included goals like getting on Ninja Warrior. Within 11 weeks, well, I had smaller milestones to work towards, things like getting back to be able to surf properly. But then after that, I picked bigger goals to try and optimize and make the most of that opportunity, which was a massive motivation to get back to being, walking, surfing, etc. The benefit of that, I evolved to the point where now I can, for whatever reason, I can climb a wall. I can do, probably 3/4 of a Ninja Warrior course. These are things that I would never have thought 2 years ago that I was capable of. And for you and for, well, let's say for the rest of the planet, we've had the opportunity to see what happens when we don't drive to work every day. What happens, what can evolve within our education system if we don't have to go to school Monday to Friday, and if we don't have to sit in a class of 30, and if we don't, have to do that, what could happen? Okay. And we've seen some of these amazing examples of micro schools and student, led education. We've seen some really tough times through that evolution, but it's given us, as a planet, a glimpse into what's possible. And for work, it's even better. So right now, well, let's rewind 6 months ago. For any of us in Wangaratta or any of the surrounding areas, if we wanted to work at some amazing Australian companies like Atlassian, for example, you would have barriers, there's no doubt, 6 months. If you wanted to work at Google, you would have to move. If you wanted to work at, and you can just pick any, even for-purpose or not-for-profit organisation, being in a rural regional area is definitely a barrier. 6 months ago, today it is not. Just 2 weeks ago, the founders of Atlassian, and if you don't know this company, definitely look it up later, They're an amazing Australian success story, and they are always hiring software engineers, product managers, designers, innovators. Just a couple of weeks ago, the founders said no employee at Atlassian will ever be forced to come into the office again. So just think about how powerful that is for a company that's got thousands of people to turn around and tell every employee, if you want to work from home, if you want to work from a cafe, if you want to, work from your houseboat, do it. Okay, and this is the evolution of companies, which means that it opens up the opportunity for any of us right now to learn the skills that we need, build a portfolio, apply to a company like Atlassian, and for them to be set up for us to work from wherever. For us as a team also, it meant that because I couldn't commute to Sydney for a while, I had to work out how our team was going to work remotely. So we had the opportunity about 1.5 years ago to start understanding how we would all work as a team from different places. That gave us a bit of a head start by the time COVID rolled around. Yeah, and now this is the opportunity that I want to offer to everyone who's attending right now. So this is a chance for up to 30 of you who are over the age of 15 who want to coach kids how to develop skills in game design, coding, art, possibly music. We will allow you and pay for your training up to 30, and if you qualify and do well with that training, we will turn around and we will offer you a chance to be a part of our contracting coach team and earn $25 to $45 an hour. That rate is not tied to how old you are. That rate is tied to how well you coach teams and how many teams you've coached. We don't discriminate on age, which I'm kind of excited about. The other good news is that everyone here today gets a head start. So I will not push this out to our network for at least 48 hours. So if you are here now, and you can go to that web address, buzzygames.com.au/BDI-offer. You can follow one of those links there if you're over 15, if you want to apply to try and get a spot to be trained and have one of those opportunities. Also, if you're under 15, we will also have an offer for you where we're offering 4 free game design sessions. So you can actually experience this job that we're talking about firsthand. And for the teachers that are here today, we want to help support you bring these sorts of experiences into your classroom. We want to ride shotgun with you and help co-teach or do virtual incursions and make it super simple. So please, if you're a teacher and you're interested in what we're trying to do, feel free to click on that link, give us your details, and we'll follow up. There is our email address. Please, if anyone's got any questions on career opportunities like this in the gig economy or startups or game design, software development, if you are committed, passionate, and you've already done some of the legwork yourself, and you email my team will do whatever possible to open doors for you. I promise. If you've done no work yourself and you email us and say, hey, what do I have to do? Please give me a 10-step process on what I should do. You'll unlikely get a lot of time and energy from my team. But if you have put in some time and energy yourself, I promise that we will match it to try and open up an opportunity for everyone here today. That is it for me. I'd love to take some questions for those that are here. So Shorju, I'm going to switch back out of my sharing. How about we see if we've got any questions or we can help some kids, grab some opportunities.
Yeah, we've got a lot of questions about the opportunity just offered. So I guess the first question that we've got here is, can I apply while I'm still studying in high school? And if so, what are the work hours like?
Yeah, for sure. Good question. So if you're still in high school, 100% you can apply. Now, what are the work hours like? This is even better. You get to pick the hours that you want. So you are not working for someone. You're not working for us. We're training you so that you can set up and have your own game design coaching, gig. But you don't need to worry about going at customers because we have customers all around the world. So to give you an example, Shorju, someone could, before school, 6:30 to 7:30, they could do an hour session with some kids in the US or the UK. Or maybe after school, we've got after school kids. It really is flexible.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a really good opportunity for working when you want and how you want. You say that you want students over the age of 15. Do you have an age limit or a block-off point in mind?
No, not at all. So, I mean, if we had, let's say the Queen applied tomorrow, I'm not sure if she's 125 yet, but you know, if she's a lifelong learner, we don't have coaches. Probably I'm the oldest coach, right? So most of the coaches are probably early 20s at the moment, but there is no cutoff. You really need to want to educate and learn in this space. That's the key critical requirement.
Yeah. Also, in the application process, and I guess for this opportunity, are there any certifications required prior to applying?
No, so there isn't. There's definitely traits that we look for that normally are the type of people that are better at coaching and tutoring. And so I would say if you've done some tutoring, you know, done some babysitting, you've got a love of technology and games, you're probably the type of student that would do well. Saying that, I've been 100% surprised, and I've been wrong at least 4 times. I've probably been wrong 4 times in the last year. So always I'm cautious of making, you know, those claims, and I really don't like when companies say, these are the things we want, X, Y, Z. If you don't have those things on your list, you're not even going to get an interview. That's crazy, right? You will miss some of the most amazing team members if a company takes that approach. So yeah, so we don't.
Yeah, no, so it sounds like it's open for everyone. Another thing with that as well, a lot of students, especially if they're around, 15 or 16 years old, they might not have like a lot of work experience. Will they still be able to be considered for a position?
Yeah, for sure. And this will come down to, we'll be measuring them based on aptitude, commitment, passion. We have a 3-stage application process even to be qualified to be trained. So this is, I don't want anyone to think this is like you punch in your details and you're going to have a gig tomorrow. No, it doesn't work like that. But what we do is if someone's got 0 experience, we do not exclude. What we do is we do an interview, we give them some challenges, and and when they deliver on those challenges, then it's like, yeah, why not? If we can be the first company that a student gets experience at, we love that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And just to confirm a little bit more about the process, is there like any resume or any cover letters that they require to send straight to you, or is it all included in that website there?
Yeah, again, so no cover letters. And I've got to tell everyone that for the best companies in the world right now, they probably won't even read your CV. So please don't bother writing up a BS cover letter to me or copy and paste some template. I don't care. I don't have time to read cover letters that mean nothing. I don't 100%, and neither does my team. So what we do is, and I might just share screen real quick, don't spend time on a cover letter, just put the application in, and I'll even show you how quick this is. So from that off page, just click the purple button. That's the one if you want to be trained to be a coach. And then down here is the form. So these are all just basic details on who you are, what your experience might be. Submit that, and your application will be in our process. And then because we pride ourselves on speed and execution, you will get a response within 48 hours if you're going through to the next stage. Yeah, I think the page says 36 hours, but we do it within 3 days, but we do it within 2 days.
Okay. Another thing as well, a lot of students don't have, so someone has actually asked, do they need to have like a level of knowledge in coding particularly to be considered, or is just the passion in technology required, and will you be able to fill in and teach some of the external skills? Yeah,
so no experience in coding required. And we do provide all the training. So through the training, you'll learn about JavaScript. You'll get an introduction to JavaScript if you haven't already. You'll learn about game design mechanics, how that applies in project-based learning. I would say you mustn't be allergic to technology. You must have probably, you know, if you don't like games or you don't like technology, you probably, there's not much point applying.
Yeah. More generally about BuzzyGames as an organisation, so moving away a little bit from the program and more about BuzzyGames in general, what are the people who work for you like? And do all of them have a background in IT and coding and they're all tech whizzes, or do you have a bit more of a diverse range of employees?
Yeah, I'm super proud and stoked on the diversity in our team. It's actually really good business to have a diverse team. You get a wealth of ideas. So currently I'm outnumbered and I love it. So the split is currently 70-30 female to male. Yeah, most of the team would be under the ages of 26. All right, so you know, my COO is an awesome ex-educator, and she's also a big fan of games and game design. For, you know, the type of makeup of our team, even within that gender split, 70% female, 30% male, within that we have a range of backgrounds. So we have, I would say our team, if you look at their family history, covers 6 continents. Yeah, and we love that. So you must be an excellent communicator. Most of our kids are in English-speaking, you know, markets at the moment. So you must be able to communicate. But we've got a lot of kids that are from non-English-speaking, you know, as a first language families. So we get lots of like cross-cultural opportunities there within teams, and yeah, it's pretty cool to see. I think we actually we were creating a team game the other night, and I think we started listing all the languages that the team members could convert our game into, and it was pretty impressive. I remember there was at least 6 in there, including Japanese, Hindi. There was some really cool Spanish. Yeah, plenty of languages.
Perfect. Sounds like you guys got a diverse crew there. Unfortunately, we've ran out of time for questions, and I know there are a fair few more, but thanks for actually coming to the Virtual Big Day in Wangaratta and telling us all about BuzzyGames and the opportunities you guys are offering to everyone who's here today.
Thanks so much, and feel free to reach out, and hopefully I'll see some of you real soon.
Hopefully some of you are actually inspired by Mike's presentation and you're either planning your first video game and are applying to be BuzzyGames coaches. Mike will get back with all the questions that he didn't have time to answer, and we will put the responses up on our website at www.thebigdayin.com.au. Don't forget to check out the ACS Foundation's Career Wheel if you want to find out more about the variety of roles in technology. The link is on your screen now. We'd also like to thank all the sponsors who've made this Virtual Big Day in Wangaratta possible, particularly the Victorian Government Department of Jobs, Precincts and Regions, and the Digital Innovation Festival for 2020. We'd also like to give a massive thank you to our presenters for today, Tim, Emma, Kerryn, Calvin, and Mike. We hope you learned a lot about the future and potential of the tech industry, whether it be in creative, development, security, or consulting fields, after tuning in to the Virtual Big Day in Wangaratta. If you want to rewatch this presentation or any of our past virtual events, they're all available on our website at www.thebigdayin.com.au. Just open up the Past Events tab. Even though times are tough and unprecedented right now, keep working towards the STEM career that you want, and opportunities will open themselves up as you keep pursuing. Keep safe and best of luck for the future, wherever you may be into your journey in technology.